Assalamu alaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, the world we live today has more than 5 billion human beings on this planet. And out of that, I believe almost the majority follows a religion, one or the other. The statistics says that Christianity is one of the largest religion on this earth with 33%, and then 21% are Muslims, and surprisingly, about 16% are those who follow no religion. So if we see in terms of statistics, Christianity and Islam, and after that is no religion follows, the people who believe in no God. Then there are different small religion. I'll not say a small religion because everybody has its own integrity and dignity, but there are different religions like Hinduism, Judaism, Sikhism, and there are many other. Chinese have got their own. So all these religions basically tells us about the modesty, and we talk about a lot on modesty. Unfortunately, what happened that after September 11, the world changed drastically. And this change was brought by the media, which definitely in 21st century has grown to the extent where we start talking about globalization and the whole world is a global village. Now a man living in Pakistan or America or China or any in the remotest area like in Afghanistan, in the mountains of Tora Bora, they're all connected and they do get affected by anything happening anywhere in the world. Not only that, they get news very instant. So everything is now instant. So whatever is happening anywhere in the world, it affects the life of other people. The incident of September 11 was very unfortunate in a way that this incident at one point changed the way we used to live on this planet in a 180 degrees. So now we live in a different world from all perspectives. Not only this, millions, if not in trillions, have been affected by that one incident which happened in New York in the morning of September 11, early morning around 9 a.m. Another unfortunate thing was that the people blamed so far are supposed to be Muslim, and they had Muslim profiles in their books. But having said all that, doesn't mean that Islam or Muslims have anything to do with this all going on. The European and American media, however, have propagated Islam and Muslims as if they are the one to be responsible for this incident which changed the world. After 9/11, Taliban's, or you can say the Al-Qaeda was targeted, and it was said that Osama bin Laden is the main key person behind it, and so the American forces and the NATO forces start chasing Osama. In that pretext, they did invaded Afghanistan, and so far they are fighting a war to liberate the world from those terrorists. And in those days when these NATO forces and American forces invaded Afghanistan, the rule was of Taliban, the religious backed team of people. People actually don't know about more about Afghanistan, and I am sure still they don't know that this is the remotest area in the world where the mountains are so rugged and rigid that it has only stones and there's no trees on it. So all these people who live there for centuries have been deprived of the basic human rights. Even I will say there was no modern life, there was no modern facility, and those people were living in isolation and were doing a good job back in those days by just dealing with their religion. And Islam was the religion of most of the people living in those mountain terrains. However, September 11, as I mentioned, activated the European and American media, which started targeting Muslims. And probably they thought the Muslims they have seen in Afghanistan are the real Muslims, or this is the true picture of all Muslims, whereas the reality is something different from that. Unfortunately, due to that media campaign and that I will say harassment created and the hatred created against Muslims, even the Muslims got divided. Some start calling themselves as enlightened or liberal or secular Muslims who live in big cities and big towns and enjoying the modern life of today. Whereas there are some Muslims who still live in the remote areas and they are probably the fundamentalists and they are more conservative Muslims, if I use the correct word. So there is a need of doing some corrective measure on the Muslim side also. Unfortunately, so far we see that very little has been done to rectify the situation or to pacify this hatred developed, which is definitely, I don't blame anyone, because what the media is showing is people are taking it as it is. So Muslims are taken as, generally it is, the perception is growing that Muslims are terrorists, they're extremists, and their women are oppressed. And the reason said in the electronic and the print media, the reason for Muslim women oppression is that they wear hijab, they wear burqas, and the Muslim men don't allow their women to go out and work, and they don't want their women to move freely, and probably this is why they let their women dress like this. In this complete silence and in this darkness, I found a ray of light. And one day I was sitting and reading an article in the paper. I found about a book which says, "I cover a day in the life of a Muslim American colored girl." That article inspired me to contact the author of this book. And the author of this book is Sadaf Syed, who is a prominent photojournalist and wedding photographer, and who took time of 3 to 4 years to do a research on before letting this book to go into print. We are lucky to have Sadaf in our studios today, so I introduce Sadaf. How are you doing?
I'm good. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Sadaf, my first question, how you get inspired to write or to publish a book like that?
There were many inspiration behind ICOVER, and basically, I think when we've had Muslims as far as year 1500 in America, so we're not a new phenomena in America. We've been part of, we've been citizens of this country for centuries. And I think what happened is that before the events of 9/11, when Muslims came to America, they've always been treated very equally, and I think the only hardships they ever had were not missing their family back home, and maybe looking for certain mosques to pray, certain common other Muslim friends and families to make friends of, and having their local grocers, ethnic food and stuff like that. I think those were the things that people were dealing with at that time. Other than that, mashallah, people were living very comfortably. There were, any next door neighbor in America struggling to make their ends meet, providing for the family and all that. And therefore, life was good. And when the events of 9/11 happened, Muslims had a hard time. Like Muslims, maybe they don't know how to react to that kind of negative media attention, because we really didn't have to. We didn't have any reasons to defend ourselves, being from the faith of Islam, because there were really no reasons to defend yourself. A lot of people were never used to, never had a reason to speak up, never had the reason to approach the media, never really had the reason to be in the media. So I think, and because we've been kind of the good, quiet neighbor, at the time where we needed the Muslims to step up, it was, we didn't have that much of it. And anyway, so now years have passed, and I started this started the research of for ICOVER back in end of 2006, and doing photojournalism work and working for local paper, and doing wedding photography for every faith, not just Muslim weddings, all sorts of weddings. But it just made me realize that Muslims have plenty of media attention, and there's no lack of media attention for Muslims, but unfortunately what they're getting is not the truthful story, and therefore it leaves a negative impression for Muslims, and in particular in my book is Women in Islam. And that is one of my main reasons, what inspired me to work on ICOVER.
Well, Sadaf, nice to hear what you're saying. Now, going through with this book, if we look into the content of the book, you have covered like about 70 women who wear, basically you are focusing on the scarf or the hijab, the Muslim women. And you have also added Hiba Abbasi. She's an athlete. She is being shown as putting a scarf on her head, but other garments she is putting are not Islamic. How do you justify that?
What she's wearing is a swimsuit. I don't think you have the right. That's Hiba Abbasi right here.
Okay, that should be fine. So,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Because in your picture, the most prominent one was different. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so do you think like because in Islam we say that there are certain restrictions, we do have a certain restriction on what a woman can do and what a woman cannot do. So what is your experience when you talk about to those about 70 ladies? Are they comfortable what they are doing? Because they are swimming, they are doing surfing and boxing and all that. Do you think like it is correct from the perspective we already have? Or this is what enlightened Islam?
Right. Women in Islam are honored and respected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by God. And in the books, I have 70 Muslim women featured in the book. And each woman that is featured, our hopes and our dreams are that anyone who pursues the books, who go through the pages and look at these featured women, can see themselves in it. So yes, these are women who are involved in athletics. These are women who are very educated, and they're judges. They're women who are mothers. They homeschool their children, or they're public school teachers as well. So they're all sorts of women. And you have to realize that them wearing a headscarf, the hijab, is not a barrier for them, but it's actually something that they do, that a relationship is between them and Allah, of God. So hijab is something that reminds them of God at all times. So this is a personal relationship they have with them and God, and it's to honor and to respect and always be reminded that there is God, and we are here in this world, temporarily here in this world, and then we're going to be facing Him in the Day of Judgment. But these women are in different fields, and just like the wives of the Prophet, peace be upon him, if they had to, they fought in the battle with him too. So this just tells you, if that's not powerful, then what I don't know what else could be powerful as that, fighting in the battle. So these women are very powerful. They're very educated. They're balancing their life with their family, with their professional life and their religious life very, very well. So they're great. They're a great representative of Islam.
Okay, Sadaf, we'll appreciate your effort, and but when we go with this, I think there should be a lot of controversies coming up. Like, for example, this rock band.